Welcome to Hello You. Yes, you. The podcast that opens up the full spectrum of mental health like never before. We're not here to skim the surface. We go deep into every corner of the human experience. From international athletes to high-powered CEOs, everyday heroes to global change makers. Our guests bring raw, real, and radically different perspective on what mental health really means. This is your space, a place for truth, stories, and connection. Whether you're thriving, surviving, or somewhere in between, we're here to remind you you're not alone. So pull up a chair, take a breath, and let's talk about the stuff that matters. Welcome to the most open, honest, and inclusive mental health conversation in the world. I'm your host, Dan Darwin, and welcome to Hello You. Hello You would like to thank our title sponsors, the Loss Prevention Department at Next PLC. And welcome to another episode of Hello You. And today, my guest is Nan. Nan, lovely to meet you. Could you introduce yourself, please, to our listeners?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, first of all, and lovely to meet you too. Yeah, so let me introduce myself. What can I say about me? So I'm French, hence the French accent. I live in Paris, and I'm a life and weight loss coach, also a Havening techniques practitioner, and I'm currently being certified as a hypnotherapist. And so I just love helping people the way... especially with the struggle I had, and I know we're going to talk about it today, so yes, we are. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So it sounds like you have used what we're going to talk about very positively in your life already by, obviously going off and getting other qualifications to be able to give back through your lived experiences to help other people. Mm-hmm. So Nan, let's go back then. What was life like before you had your issues, and explain what your issues were?
Right, yes. So life was, well, I'm very lucky, I'm very privileged. I mean, I have nothing to complain. I had a very lovely childhood with a loving family, a house, a roof above my head, friends. I was very good at school and so on. So really, there was nothing for me to complain about, except that when I turned 15, 16, I guess, when I reached high school, I started being insecure about my body. Like, I'm afraid so many, not just girls, but also, I guess, everyone, when they're teenagers, we face insecurities, especially when we see, the magazines and the ideal that we could look like. And so I started feeling even more insecure than I was, because I used to be shy, I was an introvert. And on top of that, I did the insecurity of, maybe I don't look right. Maybe I could look better. Maybe that would make my life easier if I looked better. I would feel more confident. I would feel more comfortable, at ease, and so on. So I went on a diet, and it worked. It worked really well. I lost, maybe 10 more than 10 pounds. And I got compliments. Oh, you look great. You look better, and so on. But as soon as I decided to stop my diet, because that's it, I had reached my goal weight, of course, all the weight came back. And then I did a few more pounds. And then I thought, okay, I know what to do. It's restrict myself for a period of time. So let's go back on a diet. And that's how I actually started 3 decades, 30 years of going back and forth between restricting my food severely and actually completely letting it go and eating whatever was in front of me, just because it was available and I could have it. So that's, you mentioned earlier on, the food struggle, the food addiction. Now I know that it was binge eating. It's just not being able to stop after one bite, one cookie, one slice or whatever, but having to have it all. And that was terrible, because for me, it was not just the food I was, ingesting, but it was also the fact that food was always on my mind. From the moment I woke up, am I going to be good today? Will I be able to manage my urges? Will I be a good girl, the way I want it to be? Or will I be completely overridden by whatever comes up for me? And that was always on my mind, so it was not pleasant.
So, what age was it that you started? Because you say 3 decades of this cycle, really. So, what age were you when this actually started for you?
Yes, I think it started when I was 16. And so for 3 decades until I was 46, when I finally noticed that, oh, it's over, I no longer do this, because I had found the solution finally. But I was in this cycle, and so I kept on thinking, okay, it didn't work with that kind of food, with that kind of restriction, so I need to tweak it. I need to maybe restrict my food more. I need maybe to change what I eat, and maybe this food that I thought was good, maybe it's not good. And maybe I need to do more of exercise and things like that.
Because food is such a difficult thing as well, because obviously we need it to survive.
Yes.
And it is essential. We plan our days around food. Mm-hmm. So to then be in this cycle, like you say, where you're binge eating and then almost anorexia, restricting your calories to the point where you just drop the weight back off again, that cycle, it's very hard to break, isn't it? Because we need food. It's not like you can just say, I'm going to go cold turkey off of food. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's one of the difficulties. And sometimes it's horrible to say this, but I'm going to say this because it was on my mind. But I was thinking, oh, if only I had a tobacco addiction or an alcohol addiction, then it would be easy because it's not something necessary, as you said. I don't need tobacco, I don't need alcohol to function, so it's okay. And whenever people were saying around me, oh, well, you can eat whatever you want, but all you need to do is eat in moderation. I was just, what do they mean about that? How is it possible to eat in moderation a delicious chocolate cake? No, I can't stop. And I hear so many people today around me in iced tea, I'm not the only one, thinking, oh, well, once I've eaten just one, I can't stop. I hear this about chips or crisps. I hear this about a cookie or something like that. And so that's what was particularly hard. It's having some, but not all of it, and trusting myself basically around food, that I could stop at some point without the bag or the box being finished.
Was there, leading up to before you were 16, because I am sure there are multiple people out there that do have issues with food, and we know that because we have different classifications around mental health issues to do with food. You know, from your anorexia to your bulimia to even where we've got a category of other specified feeding or eating disorders. So we know there's this issue going on, and we do know it with the rise of social media. And very prevalent that the UK have yesterday announced that under 16s will not have access to social media, following Australia in the same pattern. We do know that social media has a big part to play in our lives, and it has a lot to do with as well how we should look, how we should eat, what we should eat, when we should eat, to look a certain way. So for you, leading up to it, at 16 years old, any issues before 16? Anything? Was there any warning signs there before you were 16?
Well, now I think of it, yes, I think so, but not in terms of food. And that's what's really interesting, because it just happened to be food. I turned to food because food is available. It's okay to eat. People are encouraged to eat, which is good. So it was easy to turn to food, but it could have been anything else. And today lots of people are struggling with their phone addiction, for instance. It's the same thing. So I'd say now, looking back, the warning signs were basically this idea that perfection is achievable, that if I only just did this or that, then I would have this reward, which would be so good to see, so beautiful, so whatever it was. And I'm just not just talking about what you mentioned, which is the physical, silhouettes that I, from 16 onwards, that I wanted to get. But it was also, I was always the best student in my class, or nearly so. And I think it all came down from my upbringing, which also served me so well, because, well, in our society, it's good to be an A-plus student. But on the flip side of the thing is just always looking for perfection, always looking to do more, to be more, and never being pleased or content with what you've already achieved. That's really what was the problem that I then perpetuated as far as food was concerned, as far as my diet was concerned, for so many years. So that's definitely something that I can see now didn't serve me and served me too. So a bit of both.
Yeah, and I think we live in a society where we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on our children, and I've spoken about this before. And, you know, over here we do exams, SATs exams, when they're 6, 7 years old to see what level they're at, and the pressure we put on our children there to achieve. And it's almost like if they don't get the results, then their life's over at 7 years old, and that's not how we should be. And I certainly think we strive for this physical appearance that you see on social media, and maybe the lifestyle that goes with that. And again, we put pressure on, and we are putting pressure on not just adults, but teens. When you are 14, 15, 16, like you said, developing, our bodies are changing. We want to look the same as our peers because we don't want to stand out at 14, 15, 16. So if we notice something different in our body, then we try to find ways of fixing that. And food is a good source of being able to change our physique. We know that. We know how eating too many calories, we put weight on, and we eat less, we take weight away. Calorie deficits, calorie surpluses, the scientific, it's easy for us to sit here and say. Not so easy when the plate of food is sat in front of you. So we're talking about a 16-year-old who has admittedly put a lot of stress and pressure on herself to achieve. So your addiction really could have been anything. But 16, food was the way to go. Was there any issues beforehand with food? Did you ever have that urge to eat massive amounts or not eat at all? Was there ever that before this? Was that...
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. It's just that I remember that my mum having the meals very organized. You know, here's what we're going to have as a starter, and here's what we are going to have the main dish. Very French, and also, so they were very, very disciplined, clear what we were going to eat. And at the same time, in France, we have the apéritif. So I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but it's just this moment before a meal. In my family, it was dinner on Tuesday evenings and Friday evenings. And then you have a kind of little buffet where you have chips, crisps, you have peanuts, things like that, finger foods, but not the healthy kind. And you can have as much as you want. And so there was already perhaps this moment where, it's okay at this time, twice a week, to have as much as you want. But the rest of the time, it was, this is what it's going to be like. And you should finish your plate because it's good for you. And also this idea that it doesn't matter whether you're hungry or not. It's on your food, it's in your plate, have it. That's the way to go. So there was, and I know that lots of people had this too, it's just you eat what's in front of you and you pay attention and you honor the plate. You don't really think about what your needs are in the moment, what your body's telling you, whether you want more or whether you should have less. So there was also that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes as well, when we're a little bit younger, we don't understand the connection between our brain telling us we're full up and our bodies actually knowing that sometimes it takes a little while for those signals to go through. Yeah. So I think as children, we do eat a little bit more. We do overeat a little bit because we don't realise that hunger takes a little bit of time for our brain to go, no, stop now. We're full up. So we do eat a little bit more. And I think also, I don't know if it's a UK thing, but we tend to say to the kids, no, you must finish what's on your plate. And even if they're full, it's a detrimental thing. We say, no, you've got to finish because we don't want to waste the food. Yes. And then are we pushing them into overeating? It's a very hard one to gauge, isn't it? And a hard one to deal with. And as a trained mental health first aider, I always said, do you know, food addictions are one of the things that scare me the most because it is an essential part of our daily life, food. And you alluded to it earlier. Some people just can't understand, what an addiction is and that you have the urge, whether that be alcohol, whether that be drugs, whether that be food. They can't understand the urges. And they think it's just, you can just say, no, actually, I only want one piece, or I'm only going to have one drink. Addiction doesn't work in that way. It is fundamentally, you are craving that food. So for you, you've said that looking back, you could see these warning signs now. Roughly, and this is really rude of me to ask this, but roughly, how much weight were you putting on in these cycles and then dropping again? Because that would give a good indication of how dangerous this is.
That's a good question. I'd say, up until, maybe, it depended on the time it started, but roughly maybe 5 kilos or 10 pounds. But it really depended, and also it was getting harder and harder to lose the weight, while it was getting easier and easier to put on the weight each time I was doing this. So that's why I'm just giving an average, because it changed over time.
Yeah, like you say, when we're younger and our metabolism's higher, we need more calories. So therefore, to put 5 kilos on is not hard, really, to be fair, in the way our food is today. Is so calorie dense. People don't realize the calories in food. Maybe something we should go back and educate on in school a little bit more when we're talking about food preparation and stuff, saying, do you know how many calories are actually in a banana? And even healthy food has calories. We need to understand that. But when you're younger, 5 kilos, like you say, 5 kilos putting it on, maybe it is still difficult to lose that 5 kilos, but a little bit easier when you're 16, 17, 18. Talking about this cycle going on for, like you said, 3 decades. And I can attest to the fact that as you get older, your metabolism slows. You still want to eat the same amounts, believe me, and I'm sure it's the same. But that weight loss is harder, isn't it? It is harder to drop off because metabolism's slowed down. So for you, as you're going through this and you're putting 5, 6, 7 kilos on, how are you then losing it? What are you doing within your diet to lose this? Because it's easy to eat, isn't it? You've already said that. Rather than just have a slice of cake, I'm having it all. So we know how that weight goes on. What were you doing as your measures to lose this weight again?
Yes, so I was very, very good at making plans. So the plan would be, for breakfast I'm going to have 2 eggs and this and that, and for lunch I'm going to have this, and I was measuring calories, and I was making sure the portion sizes were good, and the food, of course, was, the best foods ever. And I was really splitting it into good foods and bad foods. So cucumber, yes, good. Cookies, chocolate chip cookies, no, bad. So I was really having this dichotomy between the good food and the bad food. And so that's why, that's how I was losing it. But so not only was, exactly as you said, my metabolism slowing down, but also my willingness to apply the plan that looked so good on paper, that was just ideal, so good. My willingness to execute the plan was getting lower and lower, was decreasing, first as the weeks went by, but also as the days went by, and then as the day. I would start the day thinking, okay, today I'm doing this, and by afternoon I was just like, no, there's no way. No, I'm going to have the cookie right now, because this is not... So my ability to follow the plan was going worse and worse. So I was not losing it as much as I wanted to, for that reason too.
And how did you feel when you weren't losing it?
Oh, terrible. Because, well, first of all, there's the physicality of, being slightly overweight. It's not comfortable. But also, and mainly, really, what was going on in my head, the pressure I was putting myself. You talked about pressure earlier on, about the pressure we put on ourselves to achieve. And that definitely was part of my, the inner dialogue that I was having. It's just like, but you have to, it's important. It means a lot. I was making it mean something about me. If I'm losing weight, then I'm a good person. I'm on the right track. I'm a successful woman. But if I'm not, that it means I'm a total failure. I can't trust myself. I will never succeed. I will never reach my goals or whatever. So there was the pressure I was putting on myself, which was not helping at all. I now know that. There was also the guilt. Well, you ate that when you said you wouldn't. You did something wrong again. And there was also the shame. well, I'm such a loser, I'm such a failure, I can't be trusted, I can't trust myself at all. So who could trust me to do whatever they want? So this inner dialogue, this inner criticism, self-judgment, that was really what was adding, kerosene or to the fire. It was just not helping at all. But it felt necessary. And I know a lot of people feel another urge, the urge to berate themselves, thinking that, okay, if I use the stick hard enough, then I'm finally going to learn something about it and be back on the right track. Except that it's the complete opposite. I now know this.
Yeah, I think sometimes different people have different approaches to everything in life.
Yeah.
And but I do always think with things like this, you've got to understand first what the addiction is. We've got to understand that it's an addiction. It's not something that you're choosing per se. It is an addiction. And then being hard on yourself is not the right way to go. I don't think it is about being caring and getting the right support and making sure that you understand the addiction and why you're doing it. And let's get to the root cause of it, because like you've already said, food was what you used. It could have been something else. There's an underlying cause here, isn't there? Which was that sense that you had to achieve, you had to be top of the class, you had to do everything perfectly. And when you didn't, food was either punishment or reward.
Totally.
And that's where we're talking with this addiction and understanding it's important. So we're in this cycle. What's going on in your personal life while all this is going on? Because obviously 30 years is a long time to be living with this.
Yeah, and when hearing this, it feels as if my life was chaotic and really full of pressure and lots of challenges. Not at all. As I said, I came from an ideal family where everything went fine, and I got married, and I got 2 children. I had the cat I was longing for, so I lived in Paris, so everything I wanted, I got. But it was always with a tremendous amount of pressure. Like exactly what you said. I have to be the best. I have to be the fastest. I have to get it right. And maybe what I said was not right. And I think now I can see it that I was shy. I was an introvert. I guess I'm still shy and an introvert. But there was also this social anxiety. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I was saying the right thing. So when I became a teacher, when I started living on my own in Paris, there was all this questioning about, am I doing it right? Am I going to be in trouble? And also my brain absolutely loved catastrophizing, always predicting the worst case scenario. When my husband is slightly late, when my children are slightly late, I'm just, okay, now I'm a widow. That's it. And it's just, no, of course not. I've been a widow for so many times in my head. I'm still, he's still alive, thank goodness. So, but it's so interesting the way my brain loves putting more stress where there doesn't need to be. And I definitely think that was really what was making my life so hard, so difficult. All this inner dialogue that was not helpful. And I love what you said about food being the punishment or food being the reward. Because whenever I needed comfort, we call it comfort food for some of it. And I really believe that when I was under stress, I was indeed rushing to the pantry, grabbing the chocolate, because then it would give me a sense of relief, like as if I was taking care of myself. Just, okay, I'm going to have a treat. It's going to make me feel better, as if food could change your mood. But that's the way I was telling myself. And then when I had eaten too much, I would definitely use food as a punishment. See, you've been bad, so you need to feel even worse. You're having a stomachache? Well, come on. Let's finish the box and see how you feel then. And then you will understand. So it was really this mean language, or this pretending to be helpful language, like you deserve a treat, you need to feel better, but focusing on the food when in reality I was not hungry, I was not enjoying the food I was eating, and really what I needed was to feel reassured. And chocolate can never reassure you that your husband is going to come home safe. So it didn't.
No. So let me ask you a question then. So using food as you did there to soothe your nervous system, because your central nervous system, and look, I say this a lot, our brains are amazing. thoughts are great. When we think, it's bad, because that's when we start thinking about those thoughts. That's when we run scenarios. That's when we make these things up. That's when we say, oh, what if I'd just done this? What if I'd just done that? Would I have been there? Would I have done this? Would I have achieved this? So the brains are amazing, but they do go into overdrive when we start thinking. So you're using food to calm that central nervous system, to make yourself feel better. After you've eaten X amount of calories, I don't know, but more calories than you certainly needed, knowing the cycles that you go in, how would you then feel about yourself after that?
Yes. So physically, it's as if, when I've got a mosquito bite because it's mosquito bite season. It's as if you've got that urge to scratch it, and as you do it, it feels good. But immediately afterwards, you notice that, no, it's not going to look pretty and it's going to last longer than actually had you not scratched it. That's exactly how it felt. In the moment, that relief is, I'm finally giving myself what I've not allowed myself to give myself for all day. So there's this sense of relief that, finally, I get what I want, I get what I need. But immediately afterwards, you don't feel good, because then, as you said, your body catches up and your stomach feels overfull and you don't feel good, feel kind of nauseous and so on. But also at the same time, emotionally speaking, it's as if when you feel terrible because you've put yourself under so much stress, so much pressure, so much worry, so much anxiety, and I like to think of it as a glass, an empty glass. When you put your finger to the rim of the glass, then you can hear sound very clearly. But when you've filled that glass with water, for instance, and when you put your finger on the ring, it feels the sound is very different. It's more numbed. It's not as clear. And this is exactly what was happening to me, emotionally speaking. The pressure the worry I was feeling before eating was a bit numbed, soothed, as you said. So it felt momentarily better in terms of emotions until I would add another layer of terrible feeling of guilt, shame, regret, self-judgment, and so on. And that didn't help. But so it didn't feel good at all, knowing that.
So for you, at this point, you're in this cycle. We've said about it. It's going on for a long time. But you admittedly say your life was pleasant. It was, it was good. There was nothing for you to say, well, there's a traumatic moment that I've needed to do this for. When did you actually say, this is an issue, this is a problem? When was that? What happened for you to suddenly have this light bulb moment to say, this is a problem?
Yes. And it was mini light bulb moments, one after the other. But the main one was that, so we've got 2 kids. We're very lucky. We've got 2 kids. But there's an 8-year gap between the two, the boy and the girl. And it took us 7 years, to have our daughter. And I was really terribly, I was really feeling even worse while we couldn't have our daughter than I was before. And so I thought, well, if I ever get a second child, then of course, life will be idyllic, binging will be over forever. Magically, I had no idea how, but that's how I was thinking. And we finally had this little baby girl 15 years ago. And we finally had her. And so I thought, now life is going to be perfect. I've checked all the items on my bucket list. Life is perfect now, really. And yet I was seeing myself binge eating still. And so that's when I really realized, okay, I've tried to change the way I was eating. Didn't help. I tried to exercise more. I ran marathon. Didn't help. Now I've got my second child. Life is really, truly perfect. And yet I'm still binge eating. So it means that changing the way I eat, exercising more, having all the items on my bucket list checked, this is not the issue. So what is the issue that makes me finish the ice cream tub when I don't even like ice cream every night? What's going on for me, really? And that's when I finally understood, because because of a podcast, actually. That's why I love podcasting so much. I finally heard something on a podcast that made me realize it had nothing to do with what I was experiencing in my reality, in my life, but it was what I was thinking about it. I agree with you when you said earlier on that all brains are amazing. They are. Except that we don't have to believe everything that our brains tell us. Like the first thought that we think, it's still a thought. It's not the truth. But we're so used to taking that for truth that we don't even realize it's an option. But so when I learned that, I could choose what to think on purpose, and I could actually choose thoughts that I could believe, I could make them believable, so that then I would create the life, especially the mental life, that will help me thrive and get better in this area, but in other areas of my life. That was the real relief, finally.
So, for me, that's manifestation. It's there. We've manifested that life, and you're right. The brain, it sees what's in front of it. If you accept that as your reality every time, then that will be your reality. You can change your reality, because if you're living present in the moment, you trust and believe that this is what's going to happen, and you keep believing that, keep visualizing it in your brain, in your mental brain, in your mental third eye, you will create that life. That is essentially what manifestation is, and those that have believed it. So you've actually changed your life by visualizing where you want to be, which is all good, right? But, and I say this all the time around manifestation, manifestation doesn't mean I'm going to visualize that I've got a Ferrari in my drive whilst I sit playing PlayStation in my underwear and it's going to suddenly happen. You can visualize it, and your brain can go, oh yeah, actually, I've achieved this, so I can go out and do it now. But you still have to go out and do. You still have to do those steps to get that life that you have visualized and turn that into your reality. Take that from whether you believe in parallel universes, whether you believe in the fact that I've just visualized that to the point where I'm going to turn this into my actual reality. You still have to go off and do bits. So you've had to go off and change your relationship with food, I guess. Is that?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes, and it started with noticing the spontaneous thoughts that my brain was producing, like, there's chocolate in front of me, I have to have it. And tweaking the thoughts from, I'm thinking I have to have it. It's an option to think I have to have it, but what if I was wrong that I have to have it? What if I could wait for 1 second before having it? Can I do that? Can I challenge myself to wait for 1 second? I can do that. What about challenging myself to wait for 2 seconds, 10 seconds, and so on and so forth? So, yes, you're right. I visualized myself having the result, but it was a very tangible result the next second. So not the big overachieving goal, but just the goal in the next 5 minutes. That felt so much more believable and doable than focusing on the big goal at the end, because that felt so far away from me. But challenging myself, just like they do in interval training, just, can I run to the next lamppost? Oh yes, I can. Let's challenge myself to run 2 lampposts away from here. And so it's still, yes, I was doing the steps, but also I was making it super small, super tiny, super doable, so that I was rebuilding the self-trust that I was lacking, and also changing the narrative about this, because I was starting the day thinking, it's so hard, I can't do that, to, look, what if it was getting easier and easier? And that progression, that helped me tremendously, because, you can always find evidence. I think it's super important to find the evidence for what you decide to think. Oh yes, it's easier and easier because, look, I'm thinking of it. Oh yeah, I forgot one time. So what? It's getting easier and easier because right now I'm thinking of it. So all this really had this snowball effect. It's just a small flex at the beginning, and then it compounds with another one, and just, it's all of a sudden it's a snowball that rolls on its own.
And I think what you said there, people forget that the brain's main function is to keep us alive. That's its job, is to keep us alive. So it likes us to stay in a routine that's kept us alive up to this point. because it relies on that. Whenever we push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, or we do something outside of that safety, and people forget as well that our brains are 90% subconscious. It's habits. It's things we've always done. That's how it keeps itself safe. When we push outside of that, it feels uncomfortable. We don't like it. We've got to teach our brain that actually this isn't going to kill us. We can survive, because otherwise what it will do is go at a time of conflict, a time when we're thinking all I need is food, all I need to do is eat that chocolate cake because that's kept me safe for the last 30 years. When we tell it actually we're going to hold off, we've got to really battle our brain, because our brain is saying my job is to keep you alive. That is my job. Stop trying to stop me from doing my job, because that cake has always been your solace. It's what's kept you alive. Let's go back to that. And this is the thing that you're now fighting, and you're saying, by teaching your brain, I can wait a second. This visualization that I'm putting through you, we can actually make real. But we have to do it in these short, manageable goals. So you've just highlighted that first step to change doesn't have to be a big leap to say, do you know what, tomorrow I'm cutting out every sweet bit of sugar for the next, forever how long? I don't know how long. People do these fad diets, don't they? And they wonder why they don't last. It's because not just consistency, it's about, all the stuff that goes with that. Is teaching our brains that we don't just have to cut things straight out. It can be manageable steps. It doesn't have to be a big jump. And that's what you've done. Your first step to change is there. So tell me, what are you doing now? How have you used this into the positive stuff? What are you doing with this now, this lived experience?
So much. So what I'm doing now is helping other people, other women in particular, do the exact same thing. So they can't stop snacking, or they can't stop finishing the box or the bag, and I help them see exactly what you said, that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So having all the sugar or cutting completely sugar out of their life, it can be in the middle. And I like to call it the switch. The switch is really, it's either on or off. Either I'm having all the sugar or I'm not having it at all. But what if it was, and I visited a friend in the UK a few years ago, and I loved seeing that she didn't have switches in her living room. She had dials. So she could dim the light. And that's exactly the image that I love to use with my clients. It's just, it could be a dial going from all to maybe nothing if you really want to have no sugar, but just make it gradual. So that, as you said, it's doable, and you don't end up it's backfiring and you having even more sugar than before, just out of rebellion from the restriction. So that's something that I love to do. And I love what you were saying also, if I could go back on that. It's just, yes, the brain loves familiarity. So it wants us to stay in the cave where it's familiar, even if it's painful. So just, as you said, to keep us safe. And when I'm learning about hypnosis, since I'm about to be a hypnotherapist now, what I'm learning is that those 90% of subconscious, that's a huge, part of the brain. And so I'm learning that the conscious part of the brain is like a bouncer in a club. It wants to filter new ideas, and it's so used to, you used to believing this, that the cake has been our solace forever, so of course it's going to stay this way. But when we're in hypnosis, we're using the relaxation part as if it was a signal for the bouncer of the club to go on a break, so that then the helpful ideas that we want to put in the brain, in the subconscious mind, they can come in more easily. And I love that idea that we've got 90% available to us, and it works, and without fighting this conscious brain, without saying, yeah, but I really want the cake, and no, but you can't have it, and so on. That doesn't work in the long run. So yes, that's what I do now. I have the coaching tools, I have the hypnosis tool, I also have the havening techniques tools, and all that fits beautifully to move on.
And so touching on that there, in terms of what you're doing now, I think it's incredible, helping other people, because it is, and we've spoke about it, the era that we live in, it's all about quick fix. And unfortunately, when we're talking about weight loss, when we're talking about transformation, when we're talking about addictions, it's about time and consistency. And also battling some of the other mental health issues that underlie that.
Yes.
It's all of those things. So I always say to people, we need to think about the counselling aspect of that. And hypnotherapy plays a big part in it. And I always say to people as well, I've had hypnotherapy counselling. I thought it was amazing for my PTSD. Really, really great. And I always say to people, even if you're not struggling, counselling's a good option to go and try. But try hypnotherapy. It's not what you think it's going to be. It's not Paul McKenna up on a stage telling you you're going to go to sleep and you're going to wake up and every time you hear a dog bark, you're going to think you're a dog. It's not that. And this is the thing as well, isn't it? It's people understanding that hypnotherapy can be used to reach that subconscious part of our brain and start doing some of the reprogramming that is necessary, right? We need to reteach our brain it is safe. And so it's incredible that you're doing that, and congratulations for using your lived experience in such a positive way. So if someone wanted to reach out to you and ask for your help, how would they do that at the moment?
Right. So they can go to my website, which is called milobingefix.com. So Milo is spelled MILO, bingefix.com. And this is where they can see the women I help, how I work, and what life looks like when you stop finishing the cookie bag or the ice cream tub. Yeah.
That's brilliant. So, and look, I want to ask you a couple of questions here. What does happiness mean to you now? Because I think before, happiness was that slice of cake, that cookie. What does happiness mean to you now?
Yes. Ooh, that's such a great question. I should ask myself that more often. I think happiness means, yes, seeing what's positive. Because beforehand, I was only focusing on the negative. And there's this brilliant book by Benjamin Hardy. I don't know if you've read it, called The Gap and the Gain. And it describes so well what I used to do, which is only focusing on the gap. This is where I want to go. This is where I'm at. So see, it's not working. Whereas now, I still do that, of course, because I still have a human brain. But I can also turn to, and look how far you've come. Look how amazing you've done. This is you. You created this. You decided you wanted this. And you focused on the thought that were going to help you do that. You focused on the emotions. You generated those emotions that were going to help you do that. Of course, you took action from those emotions, from the thoughts. You did that. That's amazing. And so now I'm more focusing on the celebration part, even though I'm not reaching perfection. I think I'm slowly but surely giving up on perfection, just to focus more on the present. And really being content with what I've got right now under my eyes, rather than fantasizing about something that I may never reach. And so that's more focusing on the present.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Look, what is perfection? There is, to everybody, that's different. I think what you're saying there is one of the coping strategies that I say to people all the time. By all means, visualize that end goal, that whatever it is you want to be, you know, wherever you want to get to. That is the dream, and we should always have dreams, hopes, aspirations. That's what makes us human and allows us to be who we are. But put little steps along the way and congratulate yourself every time you reach a little goal. Whether that's, you know, I want to do a body transformation and I want to lose 10 kilos. Every time I lose a kilo, that's a goal. So I've got 10 little goals to get to where I want to. Because like you say, it's so easy to go, I've lost 3 kilos, but I wanted 10. Well, what's the point? Let's give up and start again. What am I doing? It's just go back and I can start again next week. So celebrating those little wins is important, isn't it? It is really important.
Oh, definitely. And even more than the result, which is to have lost 1 kilo, just focus on every day, every time you just spot an urge. Just spotting it, not necessarily not obeying it, but just, I noticed I had an urge. I noticed I was reaching for the candy as I was doing so, instead of afterwards when I'm just surrounded with wrappers. Just that awareness, that's huge, because it starts this way. And then you expand it, and then you get even better at it, and then you can see it beforehand. That's really what I want people to focus on those tiny wins that we sometimes dismiss because that's not good enough. But it's the starting point. You have to start somewhere. It starts there. Congratulate yourself with it. Just noticing.
Yeah, those little wins are the first time you come out of your subconscious. You are now consciously aware, rather than someone going to you, where's that biscuit come from?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even realise I'd got it. And then you've eaten it. Becoming consciously aware, I'm reaching into the jar. Oh, actually, hold on. I don't want to eat this now. It's just my subconscious. I need to step out of that.
Yes.
Conscious awareness is a great step forward to change, because that's how we push our comfort zones. And I think that is in itself is a great thing for people to learn. And if nobody takes anything else away from today, apart from listening to our conversation and understanding we can change our thought patterns, that would be a great start for anyone to change anything. So my last question comes to you now. If someone's listening to this today, they're going through their own journey, whether it's the same cycles that you've been on, or whether it's lasting as long, or whether they're just realising the warning signs, what would be your message for those people listening today for them to take away?
Such a good question. Yes. So I love to tell people this little sentence: be curious, not furious. Whatever you're noticing, wherever you are in your journey, try to, I know it's not easy, that's why I'm saying try to, but it really is going to help tremendously. Try to be curious rather than furious. And by that I mean, you could ask why did I do that? But there are two different ways you could ask it. One could be, why did I do that again? That's the furious why. It's not helping. You're not going to get an answer, or at least not a nice one that's going to help you move forward. But if you switch from being the judge sentencing you to food prison forever and ever, if you switch to the curious detective, I wonder why I did that, then it's going to open up a lot of possibilities for you. You may not have the right answer straight away, but at least you have an idea. Could be about because I was a bit stressed, or I was a bit bored, or I was feeling lonely, or I was thinking about this, and okay, there's a clue. And so you could investigate it more as if you were really a detective. I love watching Sherlock Holmes and Miss Marple and so on. So that's why I love this analogy so much. And it's really going to be help you be more consciously aware, which is exactly what we want to do. Whereas being furious doesn't help at all. It just shuts you down immediately.
I absolutely love that. I have just written that phrase down. Be curious, not furious, and I love it because it applies to so much stuff. That let me question why I've made these decisions, but in a positive way. Don't be angry at myself, because that's not going to get me anywhere. Let's ask myself, why did I actually do that? Where's the underlying factor? So I love that. That's amazing. That's my takeaway piece today. So every day's a school day. I'm learning stuff new as well. Nan, it's been absolutely amazing talking to you today. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure listeners would have taken a lot away from what you've said today. And your journey is truly inspiring, and I'm so glad that you've used that lived experience to be able to help others who are on a similar journey. So thank you very much for being a guest.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a beautiful conversation. I loved all your questions.
Thank you very much. That brings to end another episode of Hello You. Thank you for listening, and if it resonated with you today, please like, share and subscribe to all of our channels. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being you. This was Hello You, where real conversations create real change. If today's episode moved you, challenged you, or simply made you feel seen, then share it, talk about it, and be part of the ripple. And remember, no matter where you are or what you're facing, you're never alone in this. We're building something together, and there's always room for you. I'm Dan Darwin, and until next time, be kind to your mind, be kind to yourself, and hello, you.